Welcome to this Group of Death special on the Rugby World Cup podcast, featuring reaction from Ben Youngs and Joe Launchbury of England and Scott Baldwin and Luke Charteris from the Welsh camp. Journalists Paul Morgan and Rhys Turrell analyse that result and preview both Wales, Fiji and England, Australia. Lose and England become the first ever Rugby World Cup hosts in history to go out in the pool stages. Firstly though, England scrum-half Ben Youngs told us at a noisy Twickenham mix zone that indiscipline was what cost his team victory against Wales.
We felt very much in control of that game. Yeah, I mean, it's a very disappointing change room. The last 10 minutes, that's what sport does, isn't it? You know, it's not over until it's over, and you know we allowed them back in the game. Now, discipline is a big issue coming out of that game, which we need to address because ultimately we've given away penalties in kickable positions. He slotted them, and they've stayed within touching distance, and they've stayed within the game, and they've come up with a try. You know, all those discipline, all those penalties at the time in the 15th minute or the 22nd minute, where at that time it doesn't really, you know, you're pushing the boundaries. Well, actually, eventually they come back and bite you, and you've got to be able to adapt. And we didn't do that tonight. You've got to see how the ref's interpreting things and how he sees Dean fit at the breakdown, etc. I thought, they probably did that better than us, and very disappointed because it's a game that I felt very much in control of. We were doing the right things at the right time, and then to come out like that is disappointing now because I just felt that we probably should be in the dressing room that have won. But look, can't take that away. So we've got to make sure we dust ourselves down pretty quickly. We've got to move on to Australia, and next week does become our World Cup final, third game in.
England lock Joe Launchbury also spoke to us, defending the widely debated decision to elect to not kick a late penalty, from which the hosts could have drawn level at 28 apiece.
I guess if it had worked, we'd be having a whole different discussion. I'd also say it wasn't an easy kick by any stretch of the imagination, and that was the decision we went with, and we backed it completely, and we've been working hard on our driving mauls and our execution of that, and that's something we didn't get right when we needed to at the end. The crowd have been fantastic, and that's probably what makes the whole situation a lot harder for us to take. We're not just in this for ourselves and in this for the players. It's we lose and we take it personally for them as well, and we hopefully next weekend we'll come out of a performance to make them all proud. You lose a game at home and suddenly a lot of doubters come in. It's important now that we come in on Monday and we're sort of excited about the opportunity we have. Huge opportunity here, a lot still going for us, sort of an amazing tournament here based in England, so a lot to play for, and hopefully we'll come out and play like there is next weekend.
Hi, I'm Dean Wilson from the Daily Mirror. You're listening to the Rugby World Cup podcast with Michael McCann.
From the Welsh camp, hooker Scott Baldwin gave us his reaction to their victory over England whilst looking ahead to the match against Fiji in Cardiff.
Yeah, it's quite a strange one for me personally. I thought it was probably the worst I've played for Wales from a personal point of view, but on the flip side, it's probably the best win. Well, it is the best win I've ever had in my career, so the overwhelming emotion is celebrating the victory. And obviously I was just asked a question, where do you think that this came from the last 15 minutes? I think it all started in pre-season in Qatar and Switzerland when the coaches put us in these dark places to see how we reacted, and I think we all stuck together then, and we all stuck together in the last 20-30 minutes. I thought the boys that come off the bench tonight were phenomenal, as was Biggs. There's been a lot said about Pence obviously being best kick in the world, which he is, we all know that, but I think Dan showed tonight that he's up there as good as anyone in the world, and when the pressure was on a 50-metre kick, he stepped up for it, and to be fair, he nailed it. And I thought Toby at the back of the scrum was phenomenal as always. The big games bring the best out of him. Adversity catches you at times, but it's how you overcome that, and we could have quite easily stayed within 3, within 6 and said, we've come away with a decent result with the injuries we've had, but that's not what this squad's about. I know Geth and Jenkins said in the change room it's probably the biggest win of his career, best win of his career, and I think that's testament. 116, 118 caps for his country. Fiji 4 years ago probably had a lot of amateur players. You look at this squad now, they're playing Super 15, they're playing Top 14, they're playing Premiership, All Pro 12. They are a formidable outfit. They're top 10 in the world. They've been resting up the last couple of days, but we've just got to be on the money again. We've got to go into the same mentality we did coming here. We've got to fight for every inch, and if we do that, we should come away with the victory.
Welsh lock Luke Charteris told me that the home crowd in Cardiff on Thursday would be huge in negating a quick turnaround for the upcoming Fiji match, for dismissing the potential for complacency in the squad.
I guess that's the beauty of this World Cup compared to the last one in New Zealand, being so far away from home. Obviously it's England's World Cup, but we get to play 2 games at home, so it's almost like a home World Cup for us in certain aspects, and you've got to take advantage of that. The crowd and the support that we'll have will be a massive factor, especially when boys are tired. And like I said earlier, the atmosphere out there tonight was unbelievable, and it certainly picks the boys up. And we got, like I say, take advantage of that for sure. You play Fiji on 7 or 8 to turn around. It's a tough game, so on 4 days it's going to be really tough. They'll obviously be rested up. and we've watched them their first 2 games. They've lost them both, but they look very sharp and look very dangerous. And I've played some very tough games against Fiji in the past, and we're going to have to recover well the next couple of days, get some hard training in, and it'll be a massive game for us on Thursday. Before this game, everyone wrote us off, said England were going to smash us easily, and then I'm sure, like you say, we'll go back tonight and we'll be World Cup champions. But it's 1 game in, it's 2 games in, and look, we're a pretty experienced squad, and the coaches certainly don't let us get carried away or don't let us get too down on ourselves. We're confident, but we know there's a massive amount of work to do, and we're 2 games through the pool, and we've got the 2 biggest games coming up.
Hi, this is Tristan Barkley, a rugby writer for ESPN Scrum. You're listening to the Rugby World Cup podcast with Michael McCann.
Despite being a man from West Wales, Communications Director for Premiership Rugby and former editor of Rugby World, Paul Morgan, began by telling us that the England-Wales match left him with mixed emotions.
Well, having spent so much time in England, and I suppose over the years covered so many England tours and got to know the England players so well, I don't really ever enjoy an England-Wales game because my loyalties are so divided. It's very, very difficult night for me, and I found it one of the most emotional I think I've ever encountered. It was an incredible atmosphere, and after the game I literally just sat in my seat and felt very, very drained. But it was a fantastic occasion for rugby. I gather we were up in the maybe 12 million people watching it on ITV, which is fantastic news as well for the game. So incredible spectacle. Thumbs up for rugby, but leaves England in a really difficult position.
England versus Australia, how do you see it?
England now will be at massive underdogs for that game, which may well suit them, and I think I would think back to 2007. That's the place I would go. I was there in the Stade de France to see them get absolutely hammered by the Springboks, and go to Marseille and pull off one of the great World Cup victories, and England are well capable of doing that. I think if this game was in Dunedin or Melbourne or anywhere else in the world, I wouldn't give England much of a chance, but at Twickenham they've got a chance. They shouldn't really fear Australia. They certainly got a very good record against them, beat them the last time they were at Twickenham. There's no reason why England shouldn't go in with confidence, and of course they will absolutely love being the underdogs.
Farrell or Ford, which way do you go?
I just don't think England can make another U-turn, so I think they have to stick with Farrell. Jonathan Joseph's fit, he comes back in immediately. If he's not, I think their only choice is to go with the same 10, 12, 13 as they played against Wales, because up to 60, 65 minutes it was going quite well. I'm a massive George Ford fan, but I really don't think England can change again. World Cups are a lot about continuity. The way they trained last week, they need to train again this week.
And who are the key threats they've got to stop from Australia?
The problem is they come from everywhere, but what we do know is that their key threat is not their front 5. England's scrum was really good last night, so I think that is the one area they can get an edge, because a lot of top flight sport is about psychology, and they absolutely can get a psychological edge on Australia in that area. But if Australia get any ball, well, I don't need to tell anyone else how much or what their backs can do. They could tear anyone apart. If they get enough ball against the All Blacks, they'll beat them too.
And obviously we must also give credit to Wales for pulling off a superb victory, but they have to go and play Fiji, and they've only got a 5-day turnaround. How do you see that one?
I mean, I can't really see any other scenario than a Wales victory. I think they're at home. Again, that will be the decisive thing. They will shape up, and as you mentioned, George North in the centre is not the worst ever. Him and Jamie Roberts in the centre, that's a pretty good combo for me. So I think Wales will win that, and I think England's only chance is to beat Australia. Many people were saying as soon as this draw was made, this was going to end up with each of the top 3 teams winning one game against one another, and we could see exactly that again. So it's still, for me, could come down to bonus points, or if 2 teams are on level pegging, of course, it's going to come down to the matchup against them. And if England beat Australia, that effectively puts them 1 point above them in the table. Because of that, Australia's record against Wales is so incredible that you would not bet against them beating them, especially because it's Twickenham. My 1 week prediction is for Wales to beat Fiji and for England to beat Australia.
Looking ahead to the England-Australia match on Saturday, online sports writer for the Daily Star, Rhys Turrell, says this is the host's chance to finally make their mark on this tournament.
If England can bounce back and beat Australia, then they can win the tournament, because this is the biggest game most of these players will have ever had in their careers. That team in 2007 were full of World Cup winners, and they knew what it took to get through, to grind through the competition. This England team don't, but if they can respond to the pressure, the huge pressure that is on them, the biggest game for most of their careers, then that should give them the impetus and the confidence and the belief that they can go on and win the tournament.
That's it for this Pool A special of the Rugby World Cup podcast. Thank you for joining me. Later this week we will return to examine pools B and D, including an interview with Island prop Cian Healy. Do feel free to subscribe and contact me on Twitter at MLMC_123. That's at MLMC_123. I've been Michael McCann. Bye for now.